critical to both these drivers. Barry Jones in the red RX-7, Freddie Gibson in the turbocharged white Nissan Bluebird. Right behind them, Peter McLeod in the RX-7 and Greg Topper in the white Commodore.
10 seconds, less than that. We prepare for the start of Heat 2. Racing, and just look at the little Nissan get away smartly, but Jones again has foiled the bit as he ranges up here on the outside. The next one to go through on the inside was Finnegan. Dane also well positioned there as well. And trying to find daylight is Terry Shield as they come across the top, drop down into Dunlop for the first time. Barry Jones looking sharp out there.
And a great start by Terry Finnegan. He's up into third place and really going hard and right on the boot of Fred Gibson. But it's Jones who got the start in the RX-7. Fred Gibson now has wound up the turbo. The big Camaro there of Mike Bergman just picking up a bit of mud and got it back on track. Fred Gibson now has the turbo really running at full blast, clawing away at the steering wheel there, and he's charging after a little RX-7 of Barry Jones, trying to go on the inside, can't quite do it. Jones blocks the path and goes through the first corner. Winfield. The race is over 10 laps, side by side. Gibson's got him.
Good run here from Freddie Gibson as he comes through in Heat 2 to take the lead away. Inside 2 circuits, Gibson leads across the strike. Second place being held by Barry Jones in the Darrell Lee entry. Terry Finnegan in the 2MMM car back up into third place and fourth place. We've got a prang with Terry Shield just going past the start line. And there's one upside down. That could be McLeod. No.
Is it Peter McLeod? There's a lot of fiberglass and metalwork here. The car's touched at the start line.
Not far away from our commentary position in the Masterton Home Centre. Officials race very quickly up there to check and make sure that the driver is okay. It is, in fact, car number 88, Fred Geisler, in the Commodore. And of course, we caught just the end of that because the cars just tear past the commentary box. And there's Fred Geisler, you can see, sitting up on the bank with one of the safety marshals removing his helmet. I think Fred was okay. It's a pretty soft landing, landed on all four, upside down. And there's the remains of Fred Geisler's Commodore as the track marshal's moving well and truly out of harm's way. Still some debris left on the track, and we've had Barry Jones pull up just down from that area and has also taken off as well. So that has put Freddie Gibson well and truly up in front in the Nissan Turbo, number 56. And here he comes down the back straight, past Peter Warren, and down now to the left-hander at Honda Corner. To the left-hander, Freddie Gibson, who had to make up so much ground to win the first heat. And there you can see Barry Jones.
He's had a bump, as you can see as well. The car has been hit on the back corner, and he stopped just near the point where Geisler's car has inverted itself on the grass, just past the commentary position here, around the bank on the left.
The dramas are plenty unfolding here at Amaroo Park this afternoon, with Barry Jones, the number 41 car, being removed. Back there is, I think, the Toshiba Commodore, the one, of course, driven by Jim Keogh, the Melbourne solicitor. There's Terry Finnegan in the wall, what the guardrail.
Another touch there, you can see, whether they all resulted from one initially, but whether damage in the front, but he's had a touch, probably enough to send him off. There are cars everywhere, one running wide, coming down towards Honda. You can see just on the right-hand side, pulling off there, a white Commodore there. Not a good race for the Commodores. One on the roof, one on the side of the road. Fred Gibson, in the meantime, just blasting through the middle, wondering where all the opposition has gone. The man closest to him is Peter McLeod in the yellow Mazda RX-7. He, in the slick 50 entry, is maybe 30 metres behind, no more.
Gary Wilmington back in fourth place in the first of the Ford Falcons. There's our race leader, Fiery Fred, in the Nissan Turbo. The wick turned up, cool day, running like Smokey. There's Peter McLeod, running strongly in the Schlick 50 car, heading up to the top, dropping over Marlborough and now down into Dunlop Loop. And having a good day indeed is Peter McLeod, who has been one of the ever-presents in touring cars for the past couple of seasons. Doesn't have an enormous budget, but he turns up at all the race meetings and does well.
This is the man who's leading a very confusing race at the moment. Fred Gibson, car 56, the Works Nissan turbocharged Bluebird. Right behind him and making up ground is Peter McLeod in the 50 RX-7. Then in third spot is car 8. That's Gary Wilmington in the yellow Ford Falcon. And a long way back to car 19, running in fourth place, Greg Topper in the Commodore. They're the leading four. and not that much of a margin from Fred Gibson back to Peter McLeod. You can see McLeod has made up a lot of ground and it is putting a real challenge on the Nissan driver. And Wilmington in third spot.
And here we come with Gary Wilmington. That'll give you an idea of the track conditions as we go inside Gary Wilmington's Ford Falcon. You can see, no, he wasn't attacked by a shotgun pellet, but certainly a rock in an earlier heat today. Give you an idea of the layout of the Amaroo course that Evan took you through a little earlier in our telecast coming down the back straight.
You'll get a chance to notice all the parked cars. There's one on the right down here, just about where that bullseye is. Kapunk, went past it, and we're now getting into an area which is almost like the car park outside the main railway station of your town. Down the back straight, coming in towards Winfield. This is a tight corner. Stick with Gary Wilmington as he just sliced it through. He's running in third spot. They're the leaders, just up in front. That's Peter McLeod in his gun sights at the moment, and Peter McLeod is closing on Freddie Gibson, who's just crossed the start-finish line. Gary Wilmington now thundering up over the line he goes, and there are cars on the left, and there's a car on the right in the fence just up here. There it is.
It's the Terry Finnegan car. Over the top of Marlborough, now down into Dunlop Loop, the corner that tightens. Right-hander, still turning right. Short straight, another kink to the right now. And I must pay special tribute to John Porter and the hard-working people that have developed Racecam. We had Racecam set up in Steve Masterton's Ford Falcon to show you pictures, hopefully running with the front runners this afternoon. The car was totaled in practice yesterday, and John Porter arrived at the circuit this morning and within 35 minutes was able to get a bracket and bring pictures from this car. An absolute tribute to our Racecam people, of course, from Channel 7. Let's pick up the race leader over the top.
Freddie Gibson. Wondering what happened to the competition, but he would be aware from pit signals and the occasional glimpse he gets in the rear vision mirror that the man closest to him is not too far behind. Peter McLeod, who started from the second row of the grid. You just saw the flash of yellow on your screen there as he pulls out to pass one of the Alpha Suds, competing in the Alpha Sud Trophy race and having a gallop in this race just so the driver can keep his hand in. Fred, 42 years of age, been racing for more than half of those years, has won Bathurst, now the test and development and race driver for the Nissan Motor Company. He and Howard Marsden, I suppose, the men most responsible. There's Fred Geisler walking around, showing his okay. He's come over to have a chat with Gary Wilkinson. In fact, we'll talk to him about what happened, what put him on the roof right at the start-finish line in just a few moments. In the meantime, still out there on the track, Freddie Gibson. Beautifully prepared car. This, I've mentioned this a few times before, but it is probably the fullest factory effort in Australia. The two-car team run by Nissan. This car, which Fred Gibson drives, and the other car, which we see only at the Australian Touring Car Championship rounds, driven by the Albury farmer George Fury, former national rally champion and leading the point score this year for the Australian Touring Car Championship. Whether he wins it or not depends on how well Alan Moffat goes, because the drivers are required to drop one race from their total points, and if you already drop out the worst score that George Fury has, that puts Alan Moffat in front in the RX-7. So quite a tussle for the national championship with one lap to go. But at the moment it's being led in total points by a car that is a sister to this, the Works Nissan Bluebird. 1.8 litres, turbocharged, probably the path of the future. There's the last lap board, as you can see. And Fred has just under 2 kilometres to go, 1.9 kilometres from this point. He has survived some of the carnage that has removed some of the other front runners. We lost through a bump and possibly some associated mechanical damage the RX-7 that won the first round. That was the Barry Jones car. We saw Fred Geisler spin and crash heavily on its roof. Terry Finnegan in a touch and spinning into the fence on the far side of the track. The Commodore that came third and was being driven with great enterprise. Really, Finnegan was going so well, but he's into the fence and almost certainly out of the next round of this race, which we'll be showing you later today. So there's more action from the touring cars yet. But it's Fred Gibson now with just 2 corners to go to notch up victory in this, the second heat of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series. Through Winfield, and he just has to get the checkered flag, and that's what he gets. Freddie Gibson, a very popular victory in a race full of drama here at Amaroo Park. Second place, Peter McLeod in the Slick 50 RX-7. In third spot, a brave effort by Gary Wilmington, carrying the Channel 7 camera around in the big Ford, and that's the way they finished.